The December wind cut through downtown Boston like a blade, carrying snow and the bitter promise of a brutal New England winter. Marcus Williams pressed his back against the brick wall of Park Street Station, his breath forming desperate clouds in the freezing air. 3 days ago, he had been a pastor's son with a warm bed and Sunday dinner plans. Tonight, he was nobody. The attack had come without warning. 4 men, their faces twisted with hatred, had cornered him near the subway entrance. Faggot, sinner, disgrace, their words had hit harder than their fists, reopening wounds his father had carved with scripture and silence. Pastor David Williams had built his reputation on traditional Methodist values in Dorchester, preaching family sanctity from behind a mahogany pulpit. When he discovered Marcus kissing Tyler behind the church fellowship hall, his rage had shaken the rafters. No son of mine. Pack your things. Get out before Sunday service. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories because we believe every broken heart deserves a second chance. The rejection letters had piled up faster than the snow. CVS, Star Market, Dunkin' Donuts. Every business in the South End had found polite ways to say no to the homeless teenager with no address and desperate eyes. His Berkeley College acceptance letter felt like mockery folded in his back pocket, near the Charles River. A faint glow caught his attention. Through the swirling snow, he could see lights spilling from a small automotive garage. The steady rhythm of tools against metal cut through the winter silence, accompanied by the low rumble of an engine fighting to stay alive. Henry Carter stood hunched over the open hood of a weathered Chevy Impala, his dark hands moving with a practiced precision despite the late hour. The sound outside made him look up. A young man stood in the doorway frame, white, maybe 18, with brown hair plastered to his scalp and clothes that had seen too many nights outdoors. Something in the kid's posture reminded Henry of his own son, Jake, in those final months. The same wounded animal wariness, the same desperate hope that someone might show kindness instead of judgment. "Please," Marcus whispered, his voice cracking. "I just need somewhere warm for tonight. I can work. I won't cause trouble." Henry studied the trembling teenager, seeing echoes of pain he recognized too well. Every instinct told him to protect himself, to send this stranger back into the night. But some wounds required courage to heal. "Come inside," Henry said quietly, "before you freeze to death out there." The garage felt like sanctuary, warm and filled with the honest smell of motor oil and metal. Marcus stood dripping on the concrete floor, hardly daring to believe his luck. On the wall, a faded New England Patriots poster shared space with family photos. "You hungry?" Henry asked, pulling a wrapped sandwich from his workbench. "It's from Mike and Patty's down the street." Marcus accepted the food with shaking hands, trying to eat slowly despite his hunger. The simple act of kindness from this stranger felt overwhelming after days of rejection and violence. For the first time since leaving home, he allowed himself to hope that maybe someone in this cold city might see him as worth saving. Morning light filtered through the garage windows, transforming dust particles into floating specks of gold. Marcus woke on the makeshift bed Henry had arranged, his body finally warm after 3 days of brutal cold. The smell of coffee mixed with motor oil created an oddly comforting atmosphere. Henry was already working, his movements methodical as he sorted through tools. "Sleep okay?" he asked, offering Marcus a chipped mug filled with black coffee. "Better than I have in days," Marcus admitted gratefully. "You know anything about engines?" Henry asked, gesturing toward the Impala. Marcus shook his head, but his eyes showed genuine interest. "This belonged to my father," Henry explained, running his hand along the car's fender. "Bought it new in 1967. The engine seized up 5 years ago, same year I lost my son, Jake. Jake was 19. Henry continued, his voice carefully controlled. "Smart kid, funny, loved music like you. He was also gay, and this city wasn't always kind to kids like him. 3 men attacked him outside a Cambridge club, beat him so badly he never woke up." "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, understanding flooding through him. He could see Jake in the faded photographs taped to the workbench, a young black man with his father's gentle eyes. My wife Sarah blamed me, Henry said if I'd been a better father, more protective, Jake might still be alive. She left 6 months after the funeral. Can't say I blamed her. Marcus felt his chest tighten with recognition, the weight of family disappointment, the crushing sense of being unwanted. You didn't fail him, Marcus said quietly. Sometimes the world just breaks things that are too beautiful for it. The words spilled out slowly as Marcus shared his story, his father's church, the discovery behind the fellowship hall, the shame and biblical condemnation. My dad builds his reputation on family values, Marcus explained. Having a gay son doesn't fit that image. 3 days ago, I had a home, parents, a future at Berkeley. Now I'm nobody. Well, Henry said finally, you're not nobody here. You're someone who needs to learn how to fix things, starting with yourself. Over the following weeks, a routine emerged. Henry taught him to identify engine sounds, to feel the rhythm of pistons and valves, to understand that every machine had its own voice when something went wrong. The kid had natural talent, an intuitive understanding that couldn't be taught from books. When Mrs. Chen's Honda developed a mysterious rattling, Marcus diagnosed a loose timing chain just by listening. When the coffee shop owner brought in his delivery truck, Marcus traced electrical problems that 3 other mechanics had missed. During Patriots games on the old radio, Marcus and Henry found common ground in their shared love of football and coffee, strong enough to wake the dead. Marcus talked about his dreams of music, while Henry spoke of his marriage and better days. The garage became a sanctuary where 2 wounded souls could begin to heal. One conversation and one repaired engine at a time. Marcus learned that broken things could run smoothly again with proper care, while Henry discovered that teaching could fill the hollow spaces grief had carved in his heart. The first brick crashed through the garage window on a Tuesday morning in January, followed by angry voices shouting slurs that cut through the winter air. Marcus and Henry stood among the scattered glass, reading the spray-painted message, "Perverts not welcome here." Louise Carter arrived within the hour, her face tight with righteous anger. As a deacon at Greater Mount Calvary Baptist Church, she'd built her reputation on moral certainty and community leadership. "Henry, what are you thinking?" Louise demanded, gesturing toward Marcus. "This boy is trouble, and now that trouble is following you home. The congregation is talking. People are asking questions about your judgment." Marcus felt the familiar weight of shame settling on his shoulders. He'd heard these arguments before, delivered in his father's study with biblical precision. "I failed Jake," Henry said quietly, stopping Louise mid-sentence. "I let fear make me cautious when I should have been brave. I won't make that mistake again." The boycott had started slowly, customers finding polite reasons to take their business elsewhere. Within weeks, Henry's customer base had shrunk by nearly half, leaving the garage eerily quiet during once busy hours. Marcus overheard the conversation between Henry and Louise late that night, learning about mounting bills, missed insurance payments, the slow financial strangulation his presence had caused. The weight of guilt pressed down on him like a physical force. "I'm destroying him," Marcus whispered to himself, staring at Jake's photograph. "Just like I destroyed everything else I touched." The next morning, Marcus packed his belongings and left a note on Henry's workbench. "Thank you for showing me what kindness looks like. I can't let you sacrifice everything for me. Some people are meant to be alone." He slipped out before dawn, walking toward the Mass Ave Bridge. The Charles River flowed dark and silent below, offering a permanent solution that whispered during his darkest moments. Henry discovered the note and began searching frantically. The snowstorm that afternoon made finding anyone treacherous, but Henry pressed on, checking shelters and warming centers as the temperature dropped below zero. He found Marcus huddled under the bridge, his lips blue with cold and his body shaking uncontrollably. Henry pulled off his own coat, wrapping it around Marcus while calling emergency services. In the emergency room, Louise sat beside Henry, the weight of unspoken truths filling the space between them. "I was wrong," Louise said finally. tears in her voice. I was so worried about protecting you that I forgot what protection actually means. That boy loves you like a son, and you love him the same way. When Marcus woke 2 days later, Henry was sleeping in the chair beside his bed. "Don't you ever run from me again," Henry said, his voice rough with emotion. "We face problems together. That's what family does." The word family hung in the air between them, carrying weight that adoption papers could never match. When they returned to the garage, they found something unexpected. Martha Rodriguez stood beside a group of neighbors, holding paintbrushes and cleaning supplies. The graffiti had been scrubbed away, replaced with "All are welcome here." "We figured it was time to choose sides," Martha explained. "Some of us remember what it feels like to be different, to need someone to believe in us when the world says we don't belong." Marcus learned something that winter that would stay with him forever. The most important family was the one you built from scratch, person by person, choice by choice, love by stubborn love. Spring arrived with particular grace, and in Henry's garage, the restored Impala sat gleaming under fluorescent lights, its engine purring with mechanical perfection. Marcus marveled at how something so broken could be made whole again through patience and skilled hands. Richard Douglas stepped out of his silver Mercedes, his expensive suit looking formal against the garage's working-class backdrop. The luxury dealership owner was frustrated by electrical problems that had stumped 3 different mechanics. Marcus listened to the engine, his head tilted in concentration. "It's the alternator control module," he said confidently. "The voltage regulator is failing intermittently, but only when the engine reaches operating temperature." Douglas raised an eyebrow, skeptical that a teenager could identify what certified technicians had missed. But 30 minutes later, when Marcus had corrected the precise problem, Douglas's skepticism transformed into awe. The phone call came 2 weeks later. Douglas offered Marcus a position at his Atlanta training facility, complete with housing assistance, full benefits, and a starting salary that exceeded what most mechanics earned after years of experience. Henry found Marcus staring at the formal offer letter, torn between excitement and anguish. "You have to take it," Henry said quietly, though the words felt like swallowing glass. "This is your chance to build something real." "But what about you?" Marcus asked, his voice thick with emotion. "We built you," Henry replied. "Everything else was just practice for that. Jake would want you to soar. Kid, don't let an old man's loneliness clip your wings." The goodbye at Logan Airport felt like another kind of death. Marcus carried Henry's father's mechanic tools, wrapped in canvas and blessed with love that transcends blood relations. The 5 years that followed tested both men differently. Marcus threw himself into learning with desperate intensity, mastering advanced diagnostics and building relationships with racing teams. He saved every dollar, working toward a goal he shared with no one. Henry struggled through loneliness that had once defined his existence. The garage limped along, serving a dwindling customer base while Henry counted days until retirement. Louise visited regularly, worried about her brother's declining health, but Marcus never forgot the lessons learned beside the Charles River. Every engine he diagnosed carried echoes of Henry's voice, teaching him to listen with his heart. Every young mechanic he mentored received the patient attention that had once saved his life. The warehouse Marcus purchased in his 4th year sat empty while he finalized plans that had consumed his thoughts since leaving Massachusetts. Every detail was carefully researched, every partnership strategically chosen, every dollar allocated toward honoring the man who had saved his life. Christmas Eve 2024 found Henry alone in the garage, working on an engine that didn't need repair. The Impala sat covered in a corner, too perfect and too painful to look at directly. The knock came softly, almost lost beneath the wind. Henry expected Louise with her weekly check-in. Instead, he saw a figure he'd dreamed about but never dared to hope for. "Hi, Dad," Marcus said simply, his voice deeper but carrying the same gentle warmth. Henry's wrench clattered to the floor as emotional control crumbled completely. 5 years, Henry whispered, torn between joy and anger. 5 years without a word. "I stayed away because I needed to become someone worthy of what you gave me." Marcus replied, pulling architectural drawings from his briefcase. I bought the old warehouse on Atlantic Avenue. Henry's Hope Automotive Academy will train kids like I was, kids who need someone to believe in them. Henry stared at the plans, seeing his name etched permanently into a legacy he'd never imagined. The transformation of the old warehouse took 8 months, but the change in Henry Carter happened overnight. The man who had moved through life like a ghost suddenly found purpose that energized his every step. Marcus split time between Boston and Atlanta, overseeing construction while finalizing partnerships. Louise arrived early on opening morning, carrying homemade coffee cake and wearing her special occasion dress. I owe you an apology, she said to Marcus, her voice thick with emotion. 5 years ago, I called you trouble. I was wrong about what love looks like. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew crowds that spilled beyond the Academy's parking lot. Mayor Michelle Wu spoke about economic opportunity, while college representatives outlined partnership programs providing pathways to higher education. The most important attendees were the 16 young people selected for the inaugural class. They ranged from 16 to 22, carrying stories of foster care, family rejection, housing insecurity, and dreams deferred by circumstances beyond their control. Among them stood Jessica Martinez, a transgender teenager kicked out in Roxbury, Michael Chen, struggling with addiction recovery, and David Johnson, aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. Marcus stepped forward, holding the same wrench Henry had given him 7 years earlier. My name is Marcus Williams, and 7 years ago I was exactly where you are now, he began. Actually, I was worse off. I was homeless, hungry, and convinced I was cursed. He gestured toward Henry, standing near the Impala display case. Mr. Henry saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He taught me that engines have heartbeats, that broken things can be made whole again, and that family isn't about blood. Today, we're starting with this Honda Civic with a mysterious rattling problem. Marcus continued, starting the engine. Close your eyes and listen. Feel what the engine is trying to tell you. Jessica raised her hand tentatively. It sounds like something is loose, but not completely broken. Like it's hanging on but needs help. Excellent, Henry said, stepping forward with a transformative smile. Sometimes the most important repairs aren't obvious ones. Sometimes you listen for quiet problems before they become disasters. For 3 hours, those 16 students worked together, diagnosing and repairing the Honda while learning lessons extending far beyond automotive mechanics. They discovered that patience was a tool as important as any wrench. As the celebration wound down, Marcus and Henry walked to the Impala display, where a bronze plaque read, "In memory of Jake Carter and all young people who deserve better. Their light lives on in every life we help rebuild." A year later, the first graduating class celebrated impossible achievements. Jessica earned her ASE certification and secured a restoration shop apprenticeship. Michael was 6 months sober and planning community college. David had saved enough for his own apartment while mentoring newer students. The Academy's success attracted attention from manufacturers and social service organizations across New England, generating funding for expansion. But for Henry and Marcus, individual transformations mattered more than numbers. On quiet Sunday mornings, they drove the Impala through Boston neighborhoods, past Back Bay brownstones, and along the Charles River where their bond had deepened through shared grief and stubborn hope. Marcus had learned that some families are assembled from spare parts and held together by the decision to keep showing up for each other. Henry discovered that the best legacy wasn't measured in years survived, but in lives touched through simple acts of radical kindness. The Academy continued growing, training hundreds while teaching communities that everyone deserves the chance to rebuild when life breaks them down. Each graduate carried forward the understanding that broken things can be made beautiful again, that healing happens one relationship at a time. What would you do if someone gave you a second chance when everyone else had given up on you? How would that kindness change not just your life, but everyone you touched afterward? Subscribe to Heart Stories, where we believe that every ending is really just a beginning in disguise, and every broken heart carries the seeds of something beautiful, waiting to bloom.